Hello, you're listening to Milo Talks. I'm your host, Milo, traveling, living, and working full-time from my Class B van, meeting people along the way and asking them to share their stories with me. And I believe that in all these stories, we might just find a little bit more about ourselves. This episode has some sound issues, which are purely my fault. My guest, Dorothy, had gone to great trouble to find good cell service for our call, but I had something popping on my end that I just couldn't get rid of, so for that, I apologize. I hope it does not distract from the content of her words. Dorothy and I have not met in person. She had left a comment in a Facebook van group that we both belonged to, and I reached out. I could tell from her comment that she was just a woman worth knowing. So I reached out, and after a bit, she finally responded and agreed to let me talk to her for the podcast. I really wasn't sure what all she would talk about or what she had to say, but I just knew I couldn't wait to hear it. So this is Dorothy. Thank you so much for being willing and open to take this call from pretty much a complete stranger, because we've not met.
Correct.
But I feel like there's something about something you posted something and had mentioned that you had been living, basically being a full-time van dweller, van lifer for several years. And so I thought, I want to talk to the woman who has found a way to make this work. So you've been full-time you're in a van, is that correct?
Well, it's a Roadtrek. It's an 06 Roadtrek RS Adventurous.
Okay. And
it's this, like the FedEx trucks.
Sure. And you have you have a kitchen, you were able to.
Yeah, I have all the facilities. I have everything I need. I bought it used, and I was living in Portland, Oregon at the time, because I like to move around the country. That's how you get to know it. So I had left Boston, I had gone to Tucson, then I moved to Portland, Oregon, and decided I didn't like all the rain up here. And then the question that arose for me was, how could I live and have the best of all worlds? And I thought, well, I guess I could be an RVer, which I knew absolutely nothing about. But that's not a deterrent to me. I like living in the unknown. And so I did my due diligence. I researched, I talked to people, and then I decided it was the Roadtrek that I wanted, because it's small, you can stealth park in it. And so I found one in Tucson. I lowballed it, went down, did the deal. I had it all checked out beforehand. And then I drove it back up to Junction City, Oregon, where they do a lot of the interiors of RVs. And I had the extra 2 seats. I had 4 seats at one time, but I had the extra 2 taken out, and I had cabinetry put in. So, and I had solar panels, because I guess I know this is going to sound so strange, and this was 2009, and I knew something was coming in the country. And it was going to be increasingly important to be off the grid as much as you can be off the grid, because I still rely on diesel fuel and stuff like that. So that's what I did. That was the beginning of the adventure.
And you did this on your own. There was nobody with you. You had this was your decision. You didn't have a partner going into you.
Yeah, I'm an independent woman, and, I marched for women's rights way back when, because I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time in the 60s and 70s. It was Martin Luther King and women's rights in Vietnam, all of that.
Oh, that actually brings me to the next point. How old are you, Dorothy?
I will be 77 in October.
And you've been full time in your van for how many years? All right, I keep calling
11,
it a van, your Roadtrek.
Yeah, 11 years. Yeah. Well, her name is Bella Ella.
Oh, Bella
and that's
Ella.
A whole other story.
Okay.
It's a whole other story. I decided, I'm a corporate woman. I was corporate in Washington, D.C. and Boston, and when I turned 65, I saw the demographic tsunami of aging baby boomers. And I thought, time to switch gears. So I went back to school. I became a certified nursing assistant. So I gravitated to working with hospice patients because it's an absolute privilege to be with people as they're, I call it transitioning.
Right.
So, yeah, and my rig, I was moving into my rig, transitioning from my city girl high-rise apartment in Portland into my van, and I was also taking care of a woman from New Jersey who had moved to Portland to her son. And I ended up naming my rig after her. Her name was Ella. And then my rig became Bella Ella. Sometime when I was in Utah, I was going through some small town and I saw this storefront, and the name of the store was Bella Ella. So
It's a cute name. It's a cute name. So that is a big transition. So now I will say this: you started it. You said you started this life at 65.
yeah.
Do you wish you had, if you could go back in time, would you have started it sooner? Or do you think that that was when you were ready and able and you had all the skills and mental fortitude to do what you did at that time?
Well, I'm somewhere between the 50s and 60s. Okay. So this lifestyle wasn't even on my radar screen back then, the way it is today.
This is true.
It wasn't on the radar screen.
Do you see it? So there are more people doing this full time in their vans and cars and RVs than I think ever before. When I purchased my van in February, I had been searching for almost a year for something to allow me to live on the road, whether it was a camper van or, a shell over a truck, just something. So I came across what I'm in now in February. And then once I had it, I was amazed at the network and the amount of other people that are there doing this and that have been doing this.
That's true. I mean, you don't know it until you engage it. So once you yourself are on the road, you end up meeting all these fellow nomads.
Was there ever a time where you were frightened or you thought for 1 second, maybe maybe this Roadtrek is not the right choice for me?
No, absolutely not. I think back on my life, and I think the seeds of this lifestyle were sown many years ago. And my father he was in the Navy, so he was a traveler all over the world during and after World War II.
Wow.
And all I remember as a child, because I only saw him 1 month a year, is that he would bring me a doll from somewhere on the planet, So I think the seeds were sown back then, even though I might not have recognized that at the time. And then, I was a city girl. Silk suits, high heel, corporate woman. That's what I was. But in my 40s, I started doing Outward Bound. This brochure came across my desk, and I thought, I think I'm going to try this. And I knew nothing about it, of course. So I ended up going to Montana, the Beartooth Range, and I was 15 days backpacking with a 60-pound pack. And I think the first 2 days I'm saying to myself, what have I gotten myself into?
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? But by the end of the 15 days, because there's no back door with Outward Bound. Once you're there, and you're going to deal with it. So that's a good lesson to learn. So by the end of the 15 days, I had fallen in love with the wilderness. So every year thereafter, I did an Outward Bound somewhere in the West. I was never interested in the East. It was always in the West. So I have survival skills.
Okay, so these are some common questions, especially being your background. One is, what did you do with all your stuff? Like, you had a house, you had those suits and those shoes, and what did you end up doing with everything?
Well, when I sold my condo, I had a gorgeous condo in Tucson, in the Sam Hughes area near the university, because I've always lived near universities. I lived at Harvard when I was in Boston. And I want to be around people who think. And so I sold that and all the furniture that went with it. And of course, there are things that you're attached to when you have a whole story about.
Yes,
that can be
yes.
There's an attachment, and and my friends supported me in, dealing with that because it's emotional. It's not just stuff. And, but I was able to let it go. I donated a lot of things. And I think the hardest thing to let go of was I love books, and I had a whole library of books.
Oh,
And,
goodness.
yeah, and I ended up donating a lot of them.
Wow. And they're heavy.
Yeah, they're
If you
heavy.
collected books like me, I wanted the hardcover. I wanted
Oh,
to
yeah, me
feel
too.
that book, right?
Yeah, I can't do it
Yeah.
online. I can't read that, and the tablets or whatever. I like a real book, and so I gave that all away, and I divested. I just divested of stuff.
Right. Okay. So the next one that comes up is how are you surviving financially on the road? Are you working remotely? Do you have to work at all at this stage in your life?
No, I really don't have to work. I mean, I was taking care of hospice patients, but I've chosen not to do that right now during the pandemic and being in nursing homes, which can be um, not the place to be.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
how do you pass your time? Like, how do you spend your days since we are programmed to go to work, we are programmed to, this is what we do. This is our 9 to 5 or whatever shift you're working. This are the hours I dedicate to this job or to building this other company, whether it's for yourself or for someone else. But we are almost programmed. And you had said something very interesting the very first time we spoke, which was you stopped drinking the Kool-Aid. So I'd like you to expand on that a bit, and then also
Yeah.
tell me, like, how do you spend your time now that you're really free?
Well, I move around, and I view my life as a cosmic pinball machine. And this has been an image I've had for a long, long time. We pull the lever back and we go flying out into the universe, and we bing bing with people. We have conversations.
Yeah.
and,
I love this.
and
Okay.
so, and my intention always is to make a difference for other people. And I'm not consciously thinking of that when I'm talking with people, but I can hear background conversations, what people might be thinking and not saying. And
Okay.
so that's what I address. And so a lot of my time is spent just talking to strangers.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Because we get to make a difference. And,
yeah.
we all have I'm not a religious person, but we're all sent here on a mission. And mine is to alter the course of history. And I think I mentioned that to you. And you do that, one person at a time. It's not such a big deal.
How do you plan your trips? Like when you
I don't.
have, so I wake up today and you may leave to go someplace new and you may not.
That's right. I'm on circadian rhythm. So the sun rises and the sun sets. And I wear a watch. It was an old gift from my husband many, many years ago. So I wear it, but it doesn't mean a lot to me unless I have an appointment, because I do have integrity around time. If you tell me 9 o'clock, I'm probably going to be there 5 of, like that. But I'm on circadian rhythm, and the days are meaningless to me. I mean, I have to look at my calendar on my phone to figure out what day it is because it's unimportant information.
Oh, that's a level of freedom that very few people can even understand.
Right. And I don't clutter my mind with all that stuff. It's kind of like a straitjacket we put on voluntarily.
Actually, as we're having this conversation, I have a resignation letter on my laptop to give up the job I've had for the last almost 2 years.
Wow.
I think there's been a shift in me. I just turned 50, and there's been this shift in me, like, what's next? And why am I so almost afraid, honestly, to let go of this, if this income isn't going to break or make my life at all. I know this. I am a very resourceful, creative person. But for some reason, hitting the send on that email has been almost paralyzing for me today.
Yeah,
I have not. In fact, I waited to talk to you so that I could I was hoping like there would be something that was said in this conversation to help me push that button to say, you cannot live your life like this anymore. And it's time to,
Yeah,
and then
the
like
letting go.
run. Yeah. Just
Yeah,
let it
the
go. Put
letting
it
go.
down. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
To live your dreams, there's a other side to it. You have to let go of what you've always known or what you've always had. You're moving into a different context when you're on the road.
Yeah.
It's different because
And I'm not alone. Like you, I mean, I have a friend base that is unbelievable.
me too.
Yeah. And I think I should feel even more comfortable in this decision because of that. Like there's no way there's a net. I'm on a flying trapeze, but there is a safety net. Now, kudos to the people who do this and have no safety net. And I know that those people are out there, but it's funny that I am so hesitant knowing good and well that is the right decision to make. I'm doing a job I no longer enjoy. I don't want to get up for somebody else's agenda anymore. I just don't. I would rather pursue my agenda.
Exactly. And so my feeling is if you're not getting any juice out of it, let it go.
Yeah, I'm not getting any juice.
Because we're kind of robotic. We do what we do. I mean, leaving my job, I had the dream job. I worked for the chairman of a major corporation, and he was a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And I left that, and it was a leap of faith. It's like jumping into the unknown and letting go of all those things that you thought supported you.
Let's talk about guilt for a second. Did you suffer from it in your life at all? Does it creep up on you, or has it in your life? Has it been a factor for keeping you in place?
Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah, I do think
no, I don't have it.
I definitely have one part of my personality that I wish I could root out guilt. I think that is one element that keeps me doing for more than I should. I feel bad. Like we are in a pandemic and the economy and people are out of work. And here I am wanting to quit my job and go out into the wilderness. So there's a piece of that, plus letting go, and also letting go my employer, or disappointing my employer, feeling that guilt or obligation to their life, which is so interesting because I don't owe anybody anything, but for some reason I have it embedded in me that I am somehow responsible, and perhaps that's also a trained thing. So I'm curious as to how come you don't have it? How come you don't have this guilt thing?
Well, here's my question. Where did that story come from about being responsible?
Yeah, I have no.
Is it from somewhere in your childhood? I mean, most of the stuff that we kind of suffer from comes from our childhood. It's the past and not the future.
Right. So being an only child, I have no idea where, but it's deep and I know it. I feel it on so many things. This conversation of guilt has come up before. Feel guilty leaving people who are toxic. Feel guilty leaving friendships that offer me nothing. Feel guilt. I just feel it's the strangest feeling. And I would love to have it zapped out of me, just removed. It's not a helpful feeling. It doesn't help me. It hinders me. And I don't know. I'm like, how do I have it and other people don't have it?
Well, it's your growing up experience. I mean, I had a brother, so I wasn't an only child, but I'm sure it's a distinct way of being raised that I would be totally unfamiliar with because I wasn't, an only child. And what I've seen, I did the S training many, many, many years ago. And all I can say is that it put me in the driver's seat of my life with my hands on the steering wheel, responsible for what is and what isn't, but not as blame. It's not a blame game. It's a responsibility game. And you have to be responsible to yourself.
Yeah, I feel like I'm driving, but I do tend to be overly concerned for how my actions affect other people. And for some reason, I think that's supposed to make me a good person, when in turn, I think it's causing me to not really truly take care of myself.
Well, you know where you have to start, though. The only way to be whole and complete is to take care of yourself first. You got to do that. And that's not selfish. When you take care of yourself and you're whole and complete, then you are in a place to generate a lot of wonder into the world. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do. And what I love about this the very most, is how random this encounter has been and how I've come across you because you posted something, and something you posted just really struck me. Yeah.
Resonated.
And I'm like, I need to reach out for you. And it actually took a bit for you to respond. And I was like, oh, I hope I didn't run her off. And I hope she responds. And then you did. And then here we are. And here you are helping me through like a momentary like life change. And it's this, like you just said, change people's lives. Today, you're helping me with mine. This is
wow. I've got a big smile on my face. I want you to know that.
Well, it's mutual, and you can hear mine, but it truly is like these are the moments that matter the most for me, which is why I do this podcast. It's all the people I talk to and the experiences, and to share on a bigger scale than just having this conversation lost in the wind. It's now going to be here, and maybe someone else can listen to it and get something out of it also, from what you've said, which is just, it's perfectly timed. This is a great conversation.
We all have the possibility of transforming life itself. We all have that possibility. And I love that. And I love engaging people, because I never know what it is that I might say or share that's going to make a difference over there.
Where will you go today when you have the whole world and you're free to go? What is your plan today?
Oh, I might just go to the dunes and then walk the beach. It's like a meditation. It's beautiful. The sun's out now, and but it's going to be windy and cold on the ocean, because the Pacific up in this part of the coast is pretty cold. It's colder than Maine.
Oh, goodness. Oh, wow. Okay. I'll stay up here in the warm mountains. However, I would love for us to keep in touch. And at some point, I will find you in your Roadtrek, and I will give you the biggest hug.
we are going to meet. I wanted to share something with you too, because this is what I did on my 50th birthday. Of course, it was going to be an outward bound. So I found an outward bound in October, and it was down in Big Bend in Texas. And it was a maximum challenge outward bound. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I know what a normal outward bound is. I don't even want to think about what a maximum would be. But I decided, and I told my husband and everything, because I was still married at the time. I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to dance naked in the desert. That's what I'm doing for my birthday. And I was in great shape back then and all. And it happened that our solo, because in every outward bound, they drop you off someplace to be alone for 1-2 days, whatever. And so I get dropped off, and it felt like the bottom of it was in an arroyo, a dried out stream bed. Mm-hmm. And so I took everything off except my hiking boots, because you don't want to be barefoot in the desert.
No.
And I danced to Layla. So everybody in my life back then knew about what I was doing. And when I got off the course, they all had sent me birthday cards. So and I was still in Texas, and I had this pile of birthday cards, and they remember it just because of what I had shared.
Oh, well, I did not dance naked, but it's not too late. I could still do it.
It's never too late.
It's never too late to dance naked.
Be outrageous. Don't be afraid to color outside the lines.
I love that. Be outrageous. I think that'll be my call for the day.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking my call.
Well, I look forward to meeting you, and I know we will.
And you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That conversation with Dorothy had taken such a twist, and it did become very personal, mostly because I was just in the middle of some really big decisions. I did turn 50, did not dance naked. I did resign from the company that I had been working for. However, I didn't just go cold turkey. I did find another part-time job to kind of fill the gap. So I didn't throw all caution to the wind. Perhaps I should have, but I guess baby steps is what I need right now for my security and sanity as I live in my van. But as I listened back to the recording of Dorothy, she reminded me, and it took me a while to figure this out, but she reminded me of a series of audio CDs, actually, that I had been gifted after Hurricane Katrina by a doctor. On the CD, his name was Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he spoke like she does, just where he would say something and I would literally have to pause the CD so I could think about what it was he just said, because I hadn't heard something that way, or I hadn't thought of it that way. And so it kind of made my mind kind of open up. And talking to Dorothy, she gave me that same feeling where I had to pause and even struggled to get to the next question because my brain was kind of like, wait, what did she say? So my hope is that Dorothy's words fall on someone else's ears who also will be rewarded by what she had to say. It was so delightful for me, if you could not tell from my tone of voice. And I look forward to the day that we actually meet.
Thank you for listening. You can find me at Facebook at Milo Talks, and also you can email me at milotalkstostrangers@gmail.com.